So we just cover a few basic data operations and so first one is obviously a read from files. We'll just go back to the previous file that we discussed, which is diabetes.csv. We've already set up the working directory using command wd. We verified the previous set operation, and then now we will go and read this file. So let me show you the slide. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and read this particular file into a variable called read this. There's a function called read.csv, and I just have to provide the file name because I'm already in the working directory. So let me quickly look that up, and I can copy it from here. And we'll verify using the head command. This again shows us the first 6 records. Once I do that, I think there's a good way to look at. Now, this currently is loaded as an object. Now, typically, we'd like to understand this in tabular format, which is basically in terms of rows and columns. And once we do that as a part of a data frame object, then we can filter perhaps number of observations, which are number of rows, and number of columns, which are number of features. If I have to create a subset using, let's say, only first 3 features, age, sex, and BMI, or BMI, blood pressure, and Y, I could do that. And then I could also, once I select the columns, I could also perhaps optionally select the number of rows. If I would like to filter out certain observations, I could do that using a row filter. So for that, we would need to do a data frame object. So let me quickly show you that's the second point, which is first we read from the file. The second is frame data points. So I'm just to save time, I'm just going to take this code and execute it here. Just want to change the variable because we used read this. And this gives us a data frame representation. So again, this is also, we can just quickly type in and see the structure. So what we can see here is the row numbers are displayed on the extreme left, and you have all your observations, which are stacked up to about 443 observations. Again, I could do head on this and see the first 6 observations. So I have row numbers 1 to 6 and 4 features along with output Y. So I think we briefly discussed Y last time. This is a continuous variable. This represents a kind of a prognosis of disease development, in this case diabetes, over a course of 1 year. So that's a specific database, and we're trying to examine the role which is played by either patient's age or gender or body mass index or blood pressure. So those are the 4 features which are being considered here. So let's select a few observations. So what we're going to do here is, typically there's easiest way to do this is a sequence command, where I could basically select the first 200 or 200, whatever count that we need to have. So, and basically that would be specified as the first parameter. So I'm just going to I'll quickly show you what this command is. So what we've done is we've taken, so that again, rows and columns, right? So what we've done is C13, that's the selection for column. So I'm selecting only the first 3 columns, and I could change that. So I could basically make this start with, let's say, 3 and 4, and that will select third and the fourth column. But I would leave it at 1 and 3 for now, and we can come back and change that later. And similarly, I could have a filter on the observations as well. So I'll quickly do a head on this variable E, and you can see that only a subset of observations is selected. Okay, so we look at this variable E, which is basically being assigned a data frame. So let me quickly discuss what this sequence operation is. Essentially, a sequence is a function which basically allows you to create a sequence in a certain order. So in this case, I've taken 10 as the slab or the partition size, which is used to divide the sequence. So if I take a sequence of, let's say, 1, so that the first 2 digits define the lower and the higher range. So in this case, the sequence is between 1 to 200, and the entire data set is now divided into 10 equal partitions. So let's quickly print this out before we assign this to the variable E. So what it does is it basically takes this interval 1 to 200, and then it basically divides that into intervals which are equally spaced, and each of them has a size of 10. So that's and this is basically so this could be used to filter the number of observations. Now you could basically take you could do a subset. You could perhaps just do something like this, and that will select the first 200 observations. But if you need a specific sequence, or if you'd like to space the intervals, then I think this is a good command to do that. So let's get back to the variable E. So what we've done is we've taken the spacing of 10 for the number of observations. So you're selecting, let's say, 1 and 11. So this is typically useful when you know that the group numbers, or the different groups that exist among the observations, the spacing between those groups, and then you can say that I'm taking observations 1, and then 11, right? So those are the observations of interest. Perhaps 2 to 10 would have a similar characteristic as the observation 1, and then those become redundant, right? So that's something depends on the data characteristic. So once we take this particular sequence, this filters out the first parameter, filters out the observations, which is the number of rows, and the second parameter filters out the features. Now, in this case, when I say 1 and 5, this is basically I'm selecting first feature and the fifth feature. So I need to remember the index. Let's say if I change this to, let's say, 1 and 3, and then I try to do a head on E. So that selects the first parameter, which is age, and the third parameter. So this, again, you can quickly verify this by looking at your original data frame, and you can see that the third parameter here is BMI, which is body mass index. So you have selected age, which is the first parameter, or feature, and body mass index, which is the third feature. So that's how you can select whichever feature or column that you need. And the first argument to data frame select allows you to set a filter on rows. Now this could be any function. It could be a custom function as well. It depends on your choice.